Good morning. Welcome to Elgin County Council, the regular meeting for September 26th, 2023, 9 a.m. at call of meeting order. Take order of business is the adoption of minutes.
It resolved that the minutes of the meeting held on September 12th, 2023 be adopted.
Need a mover and second. Councilor Rowan will move. Councilor Rowan will second. All in favor? That is carried. Remind members of disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Okay, I would declare a pecuniary interest with regards to item 6.1. Moving on with presenting petitions and presentations, I understand that the St. Thomas Office of Social Services 23 update was removed from 10 a.m. Which brings us to committee of the whole.
Be it resolved that we do now move into committee of the whole.
Mover and second, please. Councilor Goodman is moved. Councilor Rowan is second. All in favor? Carried. Section 6, reports of council, outside boards and staff. 6.1, I will vacate the chair and ask the deputy warden to assume. Oh, sorry. Welcome, John. Floor is yours. Obviously, dealing with the action.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of County Council. My name is John Mascaron. I'm with the law firm of Aaron Burles LLP. Our firm was appointed as the Integrity Commissioner for the county pursuant to Section 223.3 of the Municipal Act. That was done through an award of a public procurement process. We became the Integrity Commissioner for the county on October the 11th of last year. As you're likely aware, we are also the Integrity Commissioner for a number of the local municipalities as well in Elgin County. I appear before you this morning to present my investigative report on a complaint that was filed against the warden under the county code of conduct for members of council and local boards. This is the first formal complaint that we have received in our first investigation and report that we've brought before county council. Council adopted its code of conduct for members of council and local boards, specifically including the warden, the deputy warden, and all members prior to our appointment as Integrity Commissioner. We inherited the code of conduct that had been put in place prior to us coming on board. So we are dealing with a code that was drafted by someone other than us. I will provide a short presentation this morning with respect to the report. Following the presentation, council should hear any submissions that the warden would like to make with respect to the recommendations that are set out in my report. The warden has indicated to me that he would like to make a statement. And so, Mr. Chair, I would submit to you and to council that it's entirely appropriate to hear it at that time. Following the warden, I would be pleased to answer any questions from members of council with respect to our process and with respect to our recommendations in the report. Our investigation was conducted entirely in accordance with our authority as an Integrity Commissioner under Section 5.1 of the Municipal Act that was put in place in 2018 by Bill 68. Your code of conduct and the process and procedures which are outlined in a very short complaint protocol. In carrying out our investigations into the complaint that was filed, we acted in a completely neutral and objective manner. We acted impartially. We were not out to get the warden, nor were we out to try to find a contravention. That is our role. We look at everything objectively, neutrally, impartially. That is why you retain an Integrity Commissioner and appoint an Integrity Commissioner. We carried out our investigation in accordance with the law, including the principles of natural justice and procedural fairness. The investigative report pertains to 2 alleged contraventions of the code of conduct by the warden. As detailed on page 2 of the report, the original complaint asserted a number of contraventions of the provisions of your code. We conducted a preliminary inquiry where we, I believe, interviewed some 12 persons in order to understand the complaints and the allegations that were made. We ultimately decided, as is within our purview and our jurisdiction, to narrow our formal investigation to 2 alleged violations of the code. As noted in paragraph 13 of our report, we sent the warden a notice of a complaint and as well a partial summary dismissal notice on August the 11th. And we sent the reformatted or the reformulated complaint as we stated by our office. We investigated 2 allegations against the warden. Those were that he breached sections 8 and 8.1 of the code with respect to his dealings with the former chief administrative officer of the municipality. Now, we conduct our investigations under a shroud of secrecy. That is the duty of confidentiality that is set out in the Municipal Act under section 223.5. In case you're wondering, the complainant was not the former CAO, and I think that's important to state. As I said, we investigated 2 allegations. The complete text of sections 8.1 and 8.2 are set out in section E on page 3 of the report. The materials and the information that we reviewed in conducting our investigation are set out in section F of the report on page 3. And as I indicated, we interviewed a number of persons who had specific knowledge with respect to the circumstances giving rise to the complaint. And we did so in our initial inquiry to try to understand the complaint and then further as we were into the investigation. As I noted, we initially provided the warden with a notice of the complaint, which outlined all of the allegations and the issues that were raised in accordance with our standard procedure and asked him to provide a response in writing. The warden did not protest that he was under investigation. He did not demand to know who filed the complaint. He did not demand or decree to us that the complaint needed to be summarily dismissed because it was worthless, that we were on a witch hunt. He respected our process with respect to the investigation of the complaint and our office as a neutral and impartial integrity commissioner. He dealt with the matter in a completely cooperative, professional, and courteous manner. For that, we commend the warden. As investigators, we are often confronted and treated with a degree of trepidation, with some fear, and in some instances, which you're probably well aware of, with open hostility. This was entirely absent with respect to our interactions with the mayor, who dealt with us in a completely cordial and respectful manner throughout what must have been, in my view, a very stressful matter for him to deal with. I have prepared the report and I've provided a final copy of the report, including its conclusions in accordance with our standard practice, but without recommendations to the warden for his comments and for an opportunity for him to consider the preliminary findings that we have made. He could comment on them, he could correct any factual inaccuracies, which he did, and he pointed out to us that we had something factually incorrect, and we corrected it, and thank you for that. He could dispute our findings. Once again, the warden provided us with a professional and courteous response within all the time limits that we set out. It is my ultimate submission that the report speaks for itself, and I do not propose to go through the entire report in detail this morning. As with any investigative report, this report distills and synthesizes the facts. It assesses them against the framework of the ethical accountability framework that the county itself has put in place. And It looks at applicable policies and makes findings and draws conclusions. Our ultimate findings are based on balance of probabilities, which is the civil standard of proof that is applicable to such matters. As I indicated, the detailed allegations are set out in section GA on page 4 of the report. We provided a section on the background circumstances in order to provide some context to the allegations. And then we divided the allegations into 3 separate incidents. The alleged inappropriate verbal communications, the alleged inappropriate text communication, and the alleged improper street incident interaction. Our analysis and findings are set out in 3 separate headings in detail in the report, commencing at the bottom of page 5 and continuing to page 9. I do not propose to itemize each circumstance and findings. They are comprehensively contained in the report. In summary, it is our conclusion that the warden did breach sections 8.1 and 8.2 of the Code of Conduct with respect to the specific text communications with the former CAO on the early morning of April the 1st of this year, and his interaction with the CAO in a public setting on April the 17th. We have concluded that the warden did contravene the code with respect to those 2 matters, but he did not contravene the code with respect to the allegations of the verbal communications, and those are set out at page 5. So now I turn to the recommendations, because those are what is important for council today. Our report makes recommendations. They're set out in part I of the report on page 9, and they are actually the only matters that are before council today for consideration. The courts have been very clear that the Integrity Commissioner conducts an investigation and makes recommendations and findings. The role of council is not to question the conclusions, the findings of the Integrity Commissioner. Why? Because procedural fairness has been followed in the investigative process. The Ontario Divisional Court, in its ruling in Shirelli versus City of Ottawa, was absolutely clear. The Integrity Commissioner makes determinations during an investigation. Council's role is to take the report, take the report, accept the report, and then consider the recommendations. That's an adjudicative function that council has. Council is not to weigh in on the findings. Why did you not interview this person? Why didn't you go down this route? Why did you summarily dismiss? Those are all questions that the Ontario Divisional Court in Shirelli and in Asselay versus Hawkesbury determined are inappropriate. The role of council is to review and consider the Integrity Commissioner's report and to make a determination on the recommendations. There are 2 possible penalties set out in section 223.4 sub 5 of the Municipal Act, and they relate to a reprimand and a suspension of pay for up to 90 days. In considering my recommendations, I want to bring to council's attention the following matters. The allegations in the complaint were investigated and were focused on 3 specific incidents. The allegations were not supported by a litany of extensive wrongdoing on the part of the warden. They focused on 3 separate incidents. We do not discern and have not discerned during our investigation that there was a deliberate or a disturbing pattern of conduct throughout the warden's reign that created the contraventions. I also want to point out this is the first complaint against the warden investigated at the county. We are not aware that the warden, as the mayor of the municipality of Banff, has ever been found to have contravened the code at the local level. While we have determined that the warden may not have adhered to the standard of conduct required by your code of conduct, he appeared to not act with any degree of malice, spite, or with any intent to harm or injure anybody. And finally, as previously noted, the warden dealt with us in a respectful, cordial, cooperative manner throughout, Taking all of this into account, I recommend two penalties. The first is a formal reprimand because council needs to stand behind its own accountability framework. So my view is that there should be a formal reprimand of the warden. And secondly, we have assessed the question of a monetary penalty, and we have concluded that a recommendation of a 10-day suspension of pay is warranted. I am specifically recommending the penalty of the monetary penalty for the purpose of general deterrence and maintaining public confidence in the county's ethical framework. I am not recommending today any remedial measures or corrective actions, which may also be recommended by an integrity commissioner and possibly be imposed by the council. A remedial measure, corrective action is not a penalty. It was sanctioned by the courts in Magner and Ford as something that can be recommended. For instance, an apology, something that would effectively, possibly restore the confidence of the whole system. Mr. Chair, this concludes my presentation with respect to the investigative report. Let me be very clear. Council can accept the recommendations in full, accept the recommendations in part by amending them, or reject them entirely. Once again, I want to say that we are an objective, neutral, impartial investigator, and we have given you our best view of what the complaint resulted in and what recommended penalties should be in place. I remind council that it has a responsibility to make a decision on the matter. We've seen some councils and other elected officials seek to, quote, hide their heads in the sand and abdicate their ethical responsibilities. I close by reiterating what is set out in the Code of Conduct, that the council here has adopted, Part 22. The municipality and all members of council share an important interest and responsibility in ensuring that the standards of conduct required under this code are understood, maintained, and where necessary are enforced by holding members accountable. The standards reflect the ethical and legal context in which the municipality and members must deliver services to the community by the council and the members. Deviations from the standards of conduct outlined in this code of conduct leave the municipality, council, and individual members exposed to the following: reputational risk, loss of credibility in the community, and the risk of significant liabilities. Mr. Chair and members of council, this concludes my presentation. I would be pleased to answer any questions as to the process or the recommendations set up my report, but I would submit to you that this would be the appropriate time, Mr. Chair, to hear the submissions of the warden. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Williams, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a brief statement, a few comments I'd like to make. First and foremost, I want to stress that I sincerely respect the Office of the Integrity Commission. And I appreciate the role of that office to maintain the safeguards that support orderly and safe municipal operations. For more than 30 years, I've been involved in public life, various capacities with different organizations, boards, on both sides of the board table, and in several leadership roles. Yet this is the first time I've ever found myself in this situation. This has been very disheartening and disappointing experience for me. In early May, I, along with council, learned of an Integrity Commission investigation. However, I did not learn that the focus of the investigation was on my conduct until June, and only through a third party. I also did not discover the nature of the complaint against me until my conduct until I received a formal complaint in early August. Once received, I was shocked, saddened, quite disappointed with these allegations. You see, at the time, I thought the problem with the complaint was based on the last conversation I had with the former CAO on the morning of Tuesday, April the 18th, 2023, because that's when the former CAO abruptly terminated all communications with the board. At the time, I had no idea what transpired. And after giving the former CEO some space and clean off period, I began to consult with two members of council, the former deputy CEO, the director of human resources, to try to understand what had occurred and try to resolve the communication with Fargo. But with no communications being reestablished, I remained in the dark as to what had gone wrong and was unsuccessful at resolving the situation. The findings from the investigation and ultimately published in the Integrity Commissioner's report were not explained by anyone. At the time of the incidents indicated in the report, I did not believe that I had crossed the line of appropriate behavior, but apparently I had. Therefore, found humility, sadness, that I acknowledge and accept the findings of the Integrity Commission. Further, I regret that it appears that I had in fact used poor judgment in my interactions with the former CEO through occasions noted within the complaint. And I accept responsibility for my actions. I can't stress enough, however, that at no time was there any malicious intent on my part concerning my interactions with the former CEO. As noted within the Integrity Commission report, I had apologized to the former CEO for what I thought at the time was a possible breakdown of communication. I thank Mr. Mascarin for attending this morning and presenting his report, including his findings. I formally apologize to council, staff, and the residents of Elgin County for my inappropriate behavior. I'm committed to work diligently to ensure that the behavior identified in the complaint is not repeated by me in the future. This experience and that of the past few months has already led me to be more cautious in approach and to be more sensitive to others. Finally, I want to offer the following cautionary note to colleagues around the table. It is not always clear, or sometimes deemed as offensive to others. The line between what's appropriate and inappropriate conduct can be very fine. I encourage you always to be cognizant of your words and actions when interacting with others. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. So we have a recommendation from Mr. Mascarin, and ask for variations on that recommendation. Someone like to call the motion. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I move that we receive the report from the Integrity Commissioner and accept its recommendations and move on.
Thank you, Mr. Nance. Give me a second with your motion. Councilor Shaver seconds. Discussion on the motion. No discussion. Yeah.
Be it resolved that the Integrity Commissioner report titled Integrity Commissioner Report and Code of Conduct in 2023-01 dated September 19, 2023 be received, and that a formal reprimand be issued for the offer contravening sections 8.1 and 8.2 of the Code of Conduct, and that council impose a suspension of the remuneration paid toward Ketchup for a period of 10 days as a result of violating the Code of Conduct, in particular sections 8.1 and 8.2 of the Code.
Thank you. What the balance on all of it? Just join us. Yes. Nice. Councilor April. Your lights off, Councilor April.
It's not muted.
Yeah. Nope, you're still off.
He's
Can you raise your hand or just shake your head no?
he needs to unmute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not voting on this proposal.
You're abstaining?
Correct.
have to check our procedural bylaws. I'm not aware of that being an exemption. So if you go, I'll check our bylaw.
Warren, if I could help, sorry, Deputy Warren, if I could help. The municipal act is very clear. Any member who qualified to vote and who doesn't vote, the vote goes to the negative. It doesn't really matter. It's in your procedure bylaw because it's governed by the municipal act. Therefore, the vote, if the councillor does not want to vote, he hasn't stated a reason for it, and the vote goes to the negative.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just ask if council is not opposed, if you could split that. There was the issue about receiving the report, and I'm not sure whether that was voted down or not. But if your intent is to do one, but not to deal with somebody, I think there's a way to just to clarify how that's being dealt with.
Okay, we'll separate it out. On your first motion, will be just to receive the report. So we'll call the vote. All in favor? No, agree to very second. So we need to go second before that. Councilor Hess, seconder. Councilor Jiguer. All the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. And the second, for Keener, monetary penalty, we have a motion for that. Oh, I did first for the
Apologies, Richard. Just in answering the question was, do you want to separate the motion for the reprimand and the financial penalty, or whether you wish to keep those together? And my answer to council would be that's up to the person who makes the motion as to how they want to frame the motion, whether it's two separate or one. Thank you.
okay, so we'll entertain a motion.
I'm having trouble getting some of the messages through clear. The reason I didn't vote was because I didn't agree entirely with the motion. So can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, we can, Richard.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Deputy Warden, I made that motion, and I would be willing to separate the two. First motion being receive the report, and the second.
So we can move on to recommend and the monetary.
The second part would be to accept the recommendations from the Integrity Commissioner, which is well stated. A reprimand and the 10 days.
Here, second portion.
Deputy Warden, or and what's going on. Implication.
That's perfect.
Would second that.
And I'll call the vote and see it. All in favor. That motion carries.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I appreciate your consideration. While you didn't agree with my recommendations, I commend you on at least considering and accepting the report. Thank you.
Again, thank you for attending this morning, John. Let's move on to section 6.2, Director of Community and Cultural Services and Director of Financial Services, Mr. Treasurer, County website hosting and redevelopment project.
Good morning, thank you, Mr. Horton, and for you, the County Council. On behalf of the Director of Finance, Treasurer, and myself, this report recommends that council authorize agreements with Sandbox Software Solutions for both the immediate migration and posting of the county's current websites and the redevelopment of these sites, create the next generation of the county website. Today, we're pleased to be joined by Mr. Drew Edwards of Sandbox Solutions. Should council have any specific questions for Sandbox focus this report. So thank you again for joining us. To summarize, there is some urgency with moving ahead with this project this time, both to achieve necessary accessibility upgrades to existing sites and to get our current sites on a much more stable and secure platform. And also in light of the fact that the programming language for tourism and economic development sites is nearing its lifespan. This is a large and somewhat complex project, where we see for the first time migration of tourism and economic development sites with the county's main site, without county.ca. This report shares with council some excellent news in that Carolyn and her team in economic development have been successful in receiving a $50,000 contribution from the province of Ontario's Rural Economic Development Program, which also gives you some sense of the full scope of this project. The county has established a solid working and business relationship with Sandbox based on the recent development of our internet project. The recommendation to award Sandbox is based on that recent award for that project through a competitive process, their ability to do the work on a timely basis, their extensive experience with similar projects, and their value for money approach that allows us to leverage the existing investment the company is already making into the internet for this particular project. The strategic importance of the county's website cannot be understated, which we certainly learned through the pandemic, but also ongoing vulnerabilities that we are experiencing regarding security and as experienced through the telecommunication network disruption. And this project will address those vulnerabilities. So in conclusion, Jen and I would like to thank, we put together a web task force team with the direction of the CEO, and I'd like to just acknowledge the members of that team. So we have Carolyn Cron, Manager of Economic Development, Sarah Savoy, our Accessibility Coordinator, Jessica Silcox, our Communications and Engagement Coordinator, Janine Steele, our Digital Services Librarian, Jenna Finley has joined us as well on behalf of Administrative Services, and Anna Donnie Lapel and Manu Noble representing our long-term care. So with that, I bring it forward for your consideration.
Thank you for that report, Brian. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. First of all, I would support this move totally. I feel that going with WordPress CMS is certainly the best thing possible, because the Dropbox CMS, the Drupal CMS is really enough to the test. My question looks to we have security attached to this particular. We also have security attached to an early removal of the archives. How does this fit in with the stronghold security? It seems like we're key to all of these securities. I'm paying a lot for stronghold. Just don't understand how it fits in together.
Sure, so I can partially answer the question. I may have to also include a security component for this, but fundamentally, this is taking our data and moving it to the cloud. So outside of the purview of what Sandbox offers, and Sandbox, Stronghold is not a web support company. They are an IT services company. So they're fundamentally different scopes of responsibility. And so this project, what it's going to do is going to take it off of our existing server, which also the Archivist Museum project did. our internal storage and move it to external storage where it can be managed in the cloud with security and patch upgrades that are required on a regular basis, which we're not able to do at the present time through our internal hosting arrangement. So this effectively puts it into the scope of a company that specializes in web services. That's not in Stronghold's
Yes, Councilor.
If I can follow up on that. So to be clear, the stronghold responsibility is mainly with our intranet in terms of security, because it seems like they don't have to take the information and move it out to the cloud. There still are some security issues there.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, the actually Stronghold is also the internet is also a hosted solution, so it is running a with sandbox on an external cloud hosted platform. So what we're looking to do is join this project with what we've already got on for capacity that we're receiving for the internet. So sandbox is, or sorry, Stronghold's responsibility has been to maintain our existing servers internally. And once this is off our existing server, their responsibility is consistent.
Additional questions? Councilor Shiger.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. More of a comment, just pleased to see this because it is a little bit overdue. And so hopefully it can move swiftly. And I wanted to say appreciate the details because the maintenance costs are going up and it's not cheap. But I did appreciate the level of detail in the presentation in terms of, really describing what we're getting for those funds. So this goes really well. So appreciate the report.
Yes, Don, please.
Thank you, Warden. Just in response also to Councillor Cookett's question, we're not double paying for security. We're actually compartmentalizing it. The fact that we have a solution through Sandbox, part of the things that they do really well is they're doing regular updates to patch things where there's a security breach potential. So basically you're saying there's a team that specializes in managing that environment, the web environment, and our friends providing a similar service in some respect with the security, but they're only dealing with some of our internal functions. And in fact, you'll be receiving a report in a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. But I think we're looking also at following some of the activities that Central Elgin have taken to look at Microsoft 365. There's another huge part of our work that we do with the Microsoft suites, and if we can put that in a similar cloud-based environment, you reduce the risk significantly of the security issues for the same reasons we're talking about from or Sandbox rather. Their specialty is to keep on top of those things, make sure that there's no security breaches, and that there are other fixes in our web. So we're not double paying. I think it's just compartmentalizing. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. That's one more comment on this. Thank you for that explanation. The maintenance agreement with Sandbox seems to be really cheap, I guess, compared to Stronghold. The Stronghold costs, and I hesitate to say the number per day because it's a lot. Certainly compared to Sandbox, it's a great deal. So thank you.
Anything additional from members? I did not have one, whether it's your jurisdiction, Brian, or Jennifer, comment on this. The cost is plus unrebated HST. Can you comment on unrebated HST?
Certainly, the county receives back 11.24% of their HST. So on top of these costs would be an additional 1.76% approximately that we would have to pay out. So that's why there's an additional 5,000 or 6,000 added to the project just to cover those additions.
All right, thank you for that clarification. It's not usual to see unrebated HST on a report. Okay, is there anything else from members? If not, we'll have a motion for this.
Be it resolved that the warden and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute an agreement for the redevelopment of County of Elgin websites pertaining to all county services, including tourism and economic development, to Sandbox Software Solutions at a total cost of $114,725 plus unrebated HST and annual maintenance costs with funds drawn from 2023 and 2024 budget years, subject to the terms, costing analysis, and conditions laid out in the report titled County Websites Hosting and Redevelopment Award, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute an agreement for the immediate transfer of all existing county websites to a hosted solution through Sandbox Software Solutions at a cost of $4,800. And that the province of Ontario be notified of this award under the terms of the funding agreement with the County of Elgin through the Rural Economic Development Program for the project Reimagining Elgin County's website, creating tech-forward municipal and tourism hubs.
Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Counselor Cook will move. Counselor Jiguer will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.3, manager of procurement and risk ambulance vehicle replacements 2023 and 2024. Morning. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you, council. So the purpose of this report is to seek council's approval to sole source the purchase of ambulances to Crestline for a 2-year period. In Ontario, the Ministry of Health regulates the ambulance manufacturers be certified. Currently, there are only 2 manufacturers certified for Type 3 ambulances, and both are owned by the same company. The county's procurement policy allows for sole sourcing when the goods or services are only available from one supplier by reason of a statutory or market-based monopoly. Pricing was recently received, and the prices continue to increase, unfortunately, at or above the rate of inflation. The ambulances prices this year are 6.5% higher than the 2022 purchase. So the costs will be a deficit of $15,000. And the sale of the existing ambulances, we're going to go back to that capital budget. The most recent ambulances sold in January netted about $32,000. With that, the recommendations are before you, and I'd be pleased to answer your questions. And thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Whitaker.
Thank you, Warden, you and Mike. I didn't see it as a spec. Are these diesel or gasoline powered?
These are diesel.
Yes. It's that safe. In this day and age, I wouldn't want to have a heart attack and pull over, but it's got a regen. For sure, there might be some overrides, hopefully.
To you, Mr. Warren, yes, they're the most recent certified ambulances that the province approves. So I'm not sure of exact details, but I know they're certified. So
Hopefully, thank you.
anything additional for members? Okay, Janet, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled Ambulance Vehicle Replacements 2023 and 2024 dated September 15, 2023 from the Manager of Procurement and Risk be received and filed. And that the Manager of Procurement and Risk be authorized to issue a purchase order to Crestline Coach Limited for 2 ambulances to be purchased in 2023 at the quoted price of $524,705 plus applicable taxes as approved in the 2023 capital budget. And that staff be authorized to purchase 2 ambulances in 2024 from Crestline Coach Limited, subject to capital budget approval and sufficient funding. And that 2 ambulances each be declared surplus in 2023 and 2024 and be disposed of according to the asset disposal policy.
Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councilor, or excuse me, Deputy Warden Jones. And Councilor Whitmer. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.4, Manager of Corporate Facilities, Natural Gas Standby Power Generators, POA Courthouse and EMS Headquarters, tender number 2023-P34.
Morning. Through Mr. Warden to the members of council, the report before you is requesting approval for the replacement of Edward Street and the installation of POA generators. This generator project was tendered as a single project and then combined both closing over budget. While working with the generator service contractor, the county's altered the specifications to have a product that meets the county's needs. A total of 9 contractors downloaded the tender documents for this project. 3 bids were received. Staff asked that Clark Hassan Electric be awarded the project within the budget, and the lowest bid being $258,300 plus HST. Thank you, Mr. Warden and Council. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions? Councillor Whitner.
Yes, thank you for you to invite. Are these buildings rewired for a generator?
Yes, they are. So there's transfer switches and the entire building is on generator power.
Okay. How many kilowatt are they generated?
The POA is 85 or 80 kilowatts, and then the EMS is 40 kilowatts.
Close to 80.
Yeah, POA is 80.
Okay.
And then the other one's 40.
It just seemed pricey, but I guess that is the market, so we can't argue it, but it seems like a lot.
So the actual tender that went out this last time, we actually tried being general contractor on it to reduce costs. And that's how it came in. And then when the bid came in, they took all the costs they associated. So it's above and beyond what the tender scope was. We were looking at different ways to bring the project cost down.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Councillor Noble.
Mr. Warden, I find it disappointing that we can't rely on hydro and that we have to go around buying generators. And we're buying generators for these buildings with our community's money. And our community needs generators too, because hydro is just unreliable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any additional? Okay, I'd simply like to state that this is an example of putting off an expenditure of construction, what it is now. I recall 5-6 years ago, the price of the standby generator POA was somewhere in the $8,000. Now we're up to 125, 130,000. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of be deferred capital projects. They keep going. Having said that, the motion, please.
Be it resolved that Clark Hassan Electric be selected to complete the installation of natural gas standby power generators at the POA courthouse and EMS headquarters, tender number 2023-T34 at a total price of $258,300 exclusive of HST, and that the warden and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign the contract.
May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Hens will move and Deputy Warden Jones will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.5, Manager of Economic Development, Tourism and Strategic Initiative. Request for support, Elgin Business Resource Center for a pitch. Good morning. Ready to get the pitch?
Good morning, Mr. Warden, through you to the council. The Elgin Business Resource Center is seeking sponsorships for their annual Dragon Den style business plans competition. This competition is open to all businesses in Elgin and St. Thomas. Applicants must submit their business plans to the EDRC, and the plans are reviewed and evaluated by staff who select the finalists. So the competition features 5 finalists who present their business plans to a live audience and field questions from a panel of judges. So the grand prize winner is determined by this panel of judges. So the pitch returns next year in January for their 8th annual event, and the EBRC is looking for some sponsors to help with the prize package. So Elgin County Economic Development has supported this event in the past with contributions of up to $1,000 towards the prize package. So we do have a budget for supporting local programs and services that support businesses. And the pitch is a good opportunity for us to support businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs in Elgin County, St. Thomas. And with that, the recommendation is before you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Deputy Warden Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I've attended several of these events over the years and it's quite entertaining evening. It's amazing presentations that come forward with some individuals. I would definitely support this and move this recommendation. So it's I recommend it to anybody to sit in and watch.
Thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments? I would then look for a second for the motion. Councilor Cook.
Be it resolved that Elgin County Economic Development sponsor the Elgin Business Resource Center's annual business competition, The Pitch, in the amount of $1,000.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.6, Manager of Economic Development, Tourism, Strategic Initiatives, request for support of the Young Entrepreneurs Initiative. Carolyn.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Through you to council, the Elgin St. Thomas Small Business Enterprise Center launched a Young Entrepreneurs Initiative this year, and it's focused on supporting and connecting entrepreneurs under the age of 40 in Elgin County and St. Thomas. So they have hosted 2 successful events already and have engaged with over 150 young entrepreneurs in Elgin and St. Thomas. The primary goal is to organize quarterly meetings where young entrepreneurs can network, learn, and collaborate. And these events provide these young entrepreneurs an opportunity to interact with established business owners for mentorship as well. So STEC is seeking a small number of sponsors at $1,000 that will support the group for the entire year. And these funds will go towards the events and sourcing from and showcasing young entrepreneurs at the events. And with our support, this initiative can continue to foster a supportive environment where young entrepreneurs can learn, grow, and build strong connections within the St. Thomas and Elgin business community. And again, we do have a budget for supporting local programs that support businesses, and the sponsorship would be contained within that. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Deputy Warden.
Well, just a comment, well, this is another one of these great business opportunities for young entrepreneurs. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they have a great idea, but the business background is lacking. And this definitely helps support, giving them the training to be as successful as business and to be creative and continue the business and not hold the business after a year or two, those who have been managed properly.
Thank you for that. Seeing nothing further, please.
Be it resolved that Elgin County Economic Development sponsor the Young Entrepreneurs Initiative in the amount of $1,000.
Anybody seconder, please? Councilor Whitner and Councilor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have a delegation coming up at 10 o'clock. We have one piece of correspondence we can either hold off and take a quick 5-minute break. And then entertain delegation and move on to each other. Okay, so let's reset.
Welcome back to left off at section 7. Let's actually let's skip back to the presentations. So 4.1 St. Thomas Elgin Social Services 2023 update, and welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Warden and members of council for having us here today. I brought the whole social services team, management team here to share some information with you. As Warden Ketchup said, I'm Heather Sheridan, Director of Social Services. And you'll remember that we were here earlier this year and gave a review of some statistics from 2022. This is more of an update and some information on programs that we're offering within the county. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have. And of course, at the end of the slides, my contact information is there, and I'm happy to meet with anybody or talk to anybody whenever you like. Even some lunch would be lovely. So I'm gonna ask the manager of Ontario Works to get us started, and that's Joanne Weaver. Thank you.
Good morning, Warden Council. The last time I visited, I provided you with some demographics and some statistics. There hasn't really been significant change. Our family composition is still the same. Most of our cases in Ontario works are single people, followed by sole support parents, and then we have a small number of couples and couples with children. Education levels still range from no education right up to including post-secondary education. And the age of our applicants continues just incrementally to upwards trends. So people applying for Ontario Works are getting older and fewer youth. So our current caseload size is just 1,266. And when we add in the temporary care cases and emergency assistance, we're around 1,400 cases. So on this slide, today I'll provide you information on the applications we received and the reasons for case closures. So I'm just focusing specifically on Ontario Works. Each month to date for this year, we've received 97 applications for Ontario Works, and that is compared to 92 last year. So when people contact Ontario Works, there's a need or a situation that they're calling us about. So the majority, about 80%, do qualify for Ontario Works benefits. The remaining people, we really work hard to try to find what we can do to help them. Identify what the need is. So that may be other programs in our office, like emergency assistance provided through Ontario Works. It could be through housing and homelessness in our office, that we can help them to maintain or secure their housing. And we also do a lot of referrals to other programs as well. Often people come in our office with difficulties with Canada Pension Plan, old age security, WSIB, just have general questions that we do our very best to make sure that we can resolve. And we also do a lot with our community service providers as well. It's a big community out there, and we want to make sure that we make them aware of what's available in their community to support them. So we still have, I know last year was last year, so it was still the same when we came here. 75% of the people live in the city of St. Thomas that are Ontario Works, and 25% live in Elgin County. So if you look on the right-hand side, the case closures, I just want to give you a sense of why files closed on Ontario Works. So 21% of our files closed in the last year to date for employment purposes. The next bar you'll see is income reporting not received, and the third one is failure to provide verification. So what happens is sometimes people just disappear, right? We don't know. They need to submit information on a regular basis. That's including pay information. So people may just go off our system and we're unable to reach out to them to understand why they left the system. And that includes the unable to contact as well. Sometimes people move, we'll get mail back, but we don't know where they moved to. We do have people voluntarily withdraw. And then we also have under income precludes, that's about 12% of people. So that would be people that did qualify for Canada Pension Plan disability, they moved off old age security, some other source of income that they're able to receive. They don't require Ontario Works anymore. And the last bar up there shows you the granted ODSP. So 10% of our files are closed each month to ODSP, so Ontario Disability Support Program, because it's been identified that they have a disability that's going to be significant and they won't be able to work for at least a year. Next slide. So in 2019, the province announced social services modernization. And the focus to date primarily has been on change technology and self-service options for clients. So a couple examples of those are electronic document management. We used to have files in each of our clients we kept for a 7-year retention. Now our files are all electronic, so everything's uploaded that we receive. And the other example is My Benefits. So that's a platform where Ontario Works clients can see the letters that we send them. They can look at the payments that were issued, and they also can submit information to us as well. So they can submit their pay stubs or information about a move through that method. So the big changes coming is employment services transformation. It's being phased in across the province, and for this region, economic region, the London economic region, it will start in 2024 in January. So previously, the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development used to fund only the employment agencies. So for example, our community employment services, Elgin and Fanshawe College. And then our funding that we receive from employment service, because Ontario Works is a financial and employment program, our funding was received through Ministry Community Children and Social Services. And so what they're doing is they're combining all those pots of money, and that's going to the Ministry of Labor, Skills and Training Development. And in the London Economic Region, what they're doing is they've chosen London, City of London, as the service system manager, and they'll oversee employment services for St. Thomas Elgin, London, Middlesex, and Oxford, and report up to the ministry that way. So that means that our budget, we're going to be receiving a reduction in the budget of 22%, which works out to just under 600,000. And on top of that, what makes it challenging too is Ontario Works budgets have been frozen since 2018, so you've seen no increase since then. So moving forward, Ontario Works will no longer be considered a financial and employment program. We are a financial program, but we're providing stability supports. So what we'll be doing, we'll be responsible for delivering case management services that focus on person-centered supports and help people prepare for and enable them to participate in employment activity and employment services. And we'll be making referrals to other services as well to support clients to move forward. So you see before you a slide there that talks about the types of stability supports we'll be providing. We focus on crisis and safety, health, life skills, and community supports. So as we move forward with the new model and assisting people with stability supports, there's going to be other challenges along with the funding. It's a new learning curve for our staff as we move through this. And for many of the services people do require, there are wait lists, including family doctors. So we know that we could move more people on our caseload have disabilities and prevent them from working, but we can't get them connected to a family doctor to get the forms filled out in order for them to be able to apply for the disability that they should be on. However, there's a lot of great opportunities as well. We really do have a dedicated staff that will work their way through this. And we'll work with community service providers and programs to help address the barriers that people face. And there's a great partnerships in the community to do that. So I want to thank you for your time and see if you have any questions.
Thank you for that, Joanne. Any questions? Yes, Don, please.
Thank you, Warden. You mentioned that you're shifting your employment services. Will the intake continue to be done through OW, or will there be intakes directly from the different agencies? In which case, it would be nice if our people who are listening today and members of council would know what those agencies are and how that should be managed.
Sure. So someone's in Ontario, someone wants financial assistance through Ontario Works, will still come through us, and we will make the referral on to employment services. The people in the community, like today, if someone isn't receiving social assistance, they can go to Fanshawe or employment service Elgin and say they need services. So the services will still be available in the community, regardless of whether you're on assistance or not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Warden and members of council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you this morning. My name is Danielle Nielsen, and I'm the Housing Stability Manager for our municipality. And building off of our presentation earlier this year, the information I prepared for you today is specifically related to our homelessness response as it relates to Elgin County. I'd like to start by acknowledging that in May of 2021, we became a Built for Zero Canada community. Built for Zero Canada is a national movement that works with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness to support communities in setting up national and international best practices to help move the dial on homelessness. Built for Zero communities receive access to information and resources and personalized coaching to support our local efforts. Built for Zero currently prioritizes two groups: veterans experiencing homelessness and chronic homelessness.
In addition to supporting us with best practices, Built for Zero also measures our successes and supports us in reaching for what's referred to as functional zero on homelessness. Functional zero essentially means that you have 3 or less people at any given time experiencing chronic or veterans homelessness. And as some of you or all of you may be aware, in April of this year, St. Thomas Elgin was recognized as Canada's 2nd community to achieve functional zero on veterans homelessness. Next slide, please. So one of the best practices that we have adopted here locally is called a by name list. A by name list is essentially what it sounds like. It's a real-time list where we know people by name as well as other aggregate and helpful information who are experiencing homelessness in our community. This list allows us to keep a finger on the pulse daily in terms of what we are seeing, and it allows us to make data-informed decisions around what it will currently take to solve homelessness in our communities. Multiple service providers refer and update this list daily. Since implementing this list in July of 2020, in total across both Elgin and St. Thomas, approximately 560 people have been identified. More than 60% of them have been housed, while an additional 11% moved to inactive, which means they've had no contact with our system for 3 or more months. This could be for a combination of reasons, including that the person has self-resolved their experience with homelessness. So combined, I'm happy to share with you that over 70% of all people identified in our community as experiencing homelessness are no longer identified as actively experiencing homelessness. And that's a statistic that is significantly higher when you compare us to other municipalities. So I'm very proud of that. I've also broken out this by name list data for you so that you can see it specific to Elgin County. And you can see on the left side of this chart that the outcomes in Elgin County are also quite high, with a total of 84 people being identified since July of 2020, and most of them being housed. Currently, 14% or 12 people of all people identified in Elgin County are actively experiencing homelessness and receiving supports. Next slide, please. The second best practice that I'd like to share with you is coordinated access. Coordinated access includes bi-weekly meetings where service providers from across our county come together to review our by name list, identify any existing resources, and match people on the by name list to those resources. An example of this in action would be the current tenancy selection process that's happening with our Indwell build. People on the by name list are filtered for priority and need and then matched to these resources when they become available. I'm happy to share with you that one of the first individuals identified through the by name list to move into our second Indwell building is in fact a member of Elgin County. I've also included a link on this slide if you're interested in learning more about what coordinated access is. Next slide, please. So in Elgin County, there are 2 organizations that receive homelessness prevention program funding from our office to support members of the county who may be experiencing housing instability or rural homelessness. Before I talk about those services, I thought it might be helpful to share with you some of the unique characteristics that we see in rural homelessness, which includes geographical isolation, increased occurrences of hidden homelessness, reduced access to supports and services, reduced local affordable housing options and transportation, and increased fear of stigma and/or privacy concerns. In order to respond to these challenges, both Family Central in Elmer and West Elgin Community Health Center in West Warren built out and administer services for members across our county who may find themselves in these predicaments, regardless of where they are in the county. Family Central in particular offers supportive affordable housing, drop-in programming, and food security resources. West Elgin Community Health Center offers rural homelessness system navigation, which is essentially a mobile case manager that can meet people anywhere in the county at an agreed upon location to offer support and connection to services regarding accessing housing stability. Both organizations also operate winter emergency shelter solutions to people in the county who may not want to leave their county in order to access support for emergency shelter. Family Central offers this emergency winter response on site in their basement, while West Elgin Community Health Center has partnered with EM Work Conservation Area to provide this similar type of support in the west area of our county. So I will pause there to see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danielle on homelessness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warren and members of council, my name is Teresa Slowski and I am the manager of children's services. And I would like to just highlight for you to give you an update on the access and inclusion framework. This is something that came out recently from the ministry with regard to expanding childcare in all of Ontario. It was developed to allocate funding to new childcare spaces for children 0 to 5 with a focus on improving equity of access towards common provincial access of 37%. Currently, St. Thomas Elgin is sitting at 13.6%, so we have a long way to go. When we created our plan, we were mandated by the ministry to really focus on low-income families, vulnerable communities, diverse communities, children with special needs, francophone families, Indigenous families, and families needing more flexible models of care, including weekend and evening and overnight care. So when we were given this, these 701 spaces, which you can see, the 701 spaces, we focused our plan on that. And I would like to show you the map on the next slide, which is where we dedicated these spaces. What I do want to talk about, you'll see that there are spaces across the county, but this is just our first attempt at this plan, and we are constantly looking at gathering more information to update this information. But you can see our plan from 22 to 2025, 2026, where those spaces are allocated. So I'll give you a minute just to take a quick look at that. And we'll move to the next slide. So even though we've been given these 701 spaces, we are still having some challenges with regard to actually implementing these spaces. So we've been lucky because we have had the new center open in Alderborough. There's a family size grouping opening up in West Lauren, and Assumption is coming on. So we do have some spaces already allocated within the county, but we are working forward, moving forward towards increasing those spaces. But we do have some barriers. And the first one is, the first things that we're doing to determine where the spaces are is to look at the demographic and socioeconomic indicators. Again, things are changing. We're constantly looking at where these spaces should go or could go based on the needs of families and the community. We are also going to partner with economic development to learn more about the planned growth and development of St. Thomas. Since this was announced, the VW plan was, Volkswagen plan was announced, and there's lots of changes. So we need to react to that as well and plan for that. And what we're going to use as our basis is the EDI, which is the Early Developmental Instrument. It is a survey done by kindergarten teachers in schools with children that are in senior kindergarten year 2 to determine their age appropriate developmental expectations in 5 domains. And that's what we're going to also base the need for childcare. Where those children are in need or vulnerable, that's where we will put those childcare spaces. So as I mentioned, there are some barriers that we are challenged with, and I wanted just to bring that to your attention. So we know that that there's a desperate need for childcare, but some of the things that we are dealing with is first is the allocated funding for the ministry for capital funding. We have not been given money that we can build new childcares. The allocation is quite small. In fact, it's even challenging with the allocation that we get to make any minor repairs to expand childcare centers. So capital funding is the largest one. Based on the ministry guidelines and targets, I'm going to just preface this that there is a small error in the statement, and what it should read is based on ministry guideline targets, St. Thomas and Elgin County are limited to the number of for-profit spaces that we can add to the system, not not-for-profit. The ministry has focused on the fact that not-for-profit spaces are the focus, and they've given us a 10% limit. Therefore, of the 700 spaces, we can only allocate 70 for for-profit. So that's a challenge as well, because there are many more for-profits that we've heard of in the community or in the province that are interested, but we need to focus on not-for-profit. There are no school builds planned, so that would help us if they had capital funds to do the schools. We could put childcares in the schools, but there are none planned before the end of 2026. We also know that there's a lack of commercial rental spaces that can be configured for childcare. Childcare has some unique requirements, outdoor play space, lots of parking, things like that. It's hard to find spaces that can accommodate that. And the largest problem that we have right now is there's a shortage of qualified early childhood educators. This is one of our biggest problems. We do have centers that are not running at full capacity because they cannot find staff.
And when you don't have staff, you cannot open rooms. So that is one of the biggest obstacles. And we are constantly working with the province to try to remedy that. I believe that's my answer. I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone have any questions? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. First of all, thank you very much for that report. A lot of interesting material, even though you need 3 months ago. This is very helpful. Maybe this is an unfair question, but let's do it anyway. County government gives $1.76 million to social services in St. Thomas. Do you have a breakdown on where that money goes? It should just go into a big pot in terms of how it's allocated.
Thanks for the question. We have a formula that was, it's part of the agreement between the city and county, which was created in 10 years ago, actually in 2024. There'll be a new agreement we'll be reviewing. But it goes through our finance department, so I am not 100% sure of the details on that, but I can find out for you. I think it's about, when they look at the amount, as you saw in one of those slides, it was 25% of the total administrative budget, I believe, is what is allocated to the county.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe then the next report
Sure.
kind of address that. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Anything additional? Yes, Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I look with interest at the allocated spaces for Dunwich, 2026, so 49. Two questions. Will you come to Dunwich and talk us down there about this? And what can we as a municipality do to try and help this?
We most certainly can come to Dunwich to talk. We can come to anywhere to talk about this. Again, when the ministry gave us these numbers, we had to kind of scramble to make a plan, and we truly are adjusting this plan. So even though that map is there and the numbers are there, we anticipate that those numbers will change because we are going to meet. The largest issue that we have is space, trying to find space. We know that we don't have millions of dollars to build a brand new childcare, that we need to either, find a church that has a space, or find it, if there's a community building that has a space that can be relocated to childcare. That's what I can maybe put to you to take a look to see what spaces are available. We have staff in our office that have looked at spaces across the entire county. And it is challenging because, like I said, the ministry has very specific requirements as to, percentage of window space and the amount of, the physical size of the rooms have to be a certain size per child. And we do need grass space and we do need outdoor space. So those are the largest challenges. But if I can ask you to take a look in your community, your communities better than we do, what is available and who might actually have a space, I encourage you to please reach out to me and let me know, because we are more than willing to come out and take a look at it and see if it is viable for a childcare location. We'd be happy to do that.
Anything else from members? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So just on the facilities needs, so would it be possible to formalize that a little bit, as we often do our employment land inventory, for example, and to send a request to each of us in our local municipalities with the criteria that we're looking for, and then we could take on and I know it just sounds a little bit informal. I'm thinking, maybe we could structure that a little bit so you get the information that you need.
Of course, I'm happy to do that. I'll get that to you right away.
Okay, that would be terrific. And my second question, if I may, Mr. Warden, follow up. You said you're working really hard, like one of your barriers is staffing. We can figure out the space. So you said you're working really hard on that. Could you expand on what, so I'm not doubting that, I'd just like to know what you're doing.
Of course.
And if there's anything as a municipality that we can contribute to those efforts.
So what we've done in the past or recently is we partnered with National College to offer bursaries for students that are in Elgin County who want to attend National College free of charge. So we were able to offer $40,000 worth of bursaries that went out to students. We also partnered with Ontario Works, and we provided 2 full bursaries for the 2-year program at Financial College for 2 Ontario Works clients to access the program, and that's worked out really, really well. We are going to continue that as we move forward. We recognize that because of the challenges with capital, that home childcare is a viable option. So for those of you that don't know, home childcare, it's a licensed opportunity for childcare where if you had a home and you wanted to offer care, you could take up to 5 or 6 children, depending on where you're located, 5 or 6 children into your home. The capital costs are limited because we're not building anything. We're using the people are using their own home. So what we've done is we've created videos and kind of recruitment videos for staff, recruitment videos for home childcare providers to entice people who may not have considered that as an employment opportunity. So we put those out and we have those on our website, or they're going on our website, just finishing the final touches on them. But we've done those recruitment videos as well. We know, I can tell you, I don't have specific numbers, but I can tell you that Fanshawe College has let us know that their numbers have increased in the early childhood educative program. Do we know that that's from our campaign? We're hopeful that that's where it's from. So we, like I said, we have been working really hard to think of different ways to promote the profession, to entice people to come, to stay within the county, to get educated within the county, and then either work in childcare or open a childcare in their home.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So just a quick follow-up on that. I'm wondering if there's a possibility to partner with our economic development department to promote those opportunities as in employment.
That's part of our plan to do that, but we would be happy to do that as well.
We can see how that, I guess that's one way perhaps as a municipality, we can help and partner on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion, Laura. Anything further?
Thank you so much.
Then I want to thank you all for coming in this morning and providing us with this update. Very valuable information.
It resolved that the presentation from St. Thomas Elgin Social Services be received and filed.
We have a mover to discuss it about. Councilor Cook move. Councilor Jiguer will second. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, skipping back down to section 7, council correspondence, 7.2.1, the accessibility openness flyer event. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? It's on Thursday. So we'll return from doing long-term care, property. Yeah, please.
It resolved that correspondence item 7.2.1 be received and filed.
Mover second, please. Councilor Slow. I see Councilor Noble. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Which means we're moving into section 8, statements, inquiries by members. Yes, Councilor Whitner.
Well, thank you, Lord. Just a comment in my area, since the battery plant company starting, it's kind of really market increase on traffic on Pacific County Road 52. And it runs through a handle, Kingsville Portage, and that's getting quite concerning to the road. That is stuff on the control. I know they're directed to use county roads. I don't know if there's any remedy we could put forward to redirect some of the traffic to Nottingham. I don't know that. If we had to have to go through Hamlet. And I also know that there's an increase again. 52 and 74 are not crashing again. There's another bad crash last week. So there's some problems that's got this plan going, which is all well and good, but they increase the traffic. I don't know if it's going to plan to address some of I don't know if the traffic count through Gainesville would have to confirm or deny that there's going to increase the traffic, but there's something done. It's not going to get any better.
Well, as an opportunity. Yes, please.
Thank you, Warden. I'll make sure that Peter's attention, so our engineering team, transportation team can take a look at that. I know that there are road condition indexes being done. We were expecting that there's going to be some increased traffic on our county roads because of some of the construction work that's anticipated. So I was speaking with Peter Duchek yesterday, and Peter has assured me that many of those main roads have been recently rehabilitated. So they're actually in pretty good condition to be able to take on the extra load. The other piece that does happen with the province is that there is a road condition index that is taken at the beginning of any major construction process that requires a detour. And there is provisions in place that we can actually claim back if there's excessive wear and tear on the roads, claim back from the province and sort of remuneration. But I'll come back with Peter and ask him to make a more detailed report. But I will bring it forward, and you're concerned about Highway 50, County Road 52. Make sure he's aware of that and follow it. If I could, Your Warden, pardon me, I also got a message from Mike Hoekstra. Mr. Hoekstra was responding to Councillor Whitner's question about the ambulances. He remarked that they were diesel. He corrected that they are gas. So just for the, make sure he was concerned, you got the right answer. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other statements? Notice of motion. What matters for which brings us down to section 9, closed meeting items.
It resolved that we do now proceed into closed meeting session in accordance with the municipal act to discuss the following matters under the municipal act, section 239(2). Closed meeting item number 1, September 12th, 2023, closed meeting minutes. Closed meeting item number 2, human resources update, section 239(2)B. And closed meeting item number 3, advice regarding OLC 23-000770, section 239(2)F.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden Jones and Councillor Whitner. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Motion to rise and report.
Be it resolved that we do now rise and report.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hens and Councillor Whitner will second. All in favor? Carried. Closed meeting item number 1.
Be it resolved that the closed meeting minutes from the meeting held on September 12th, 2023 be adopted.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Sloan and Deputy Jones. All in favor? That's carried. Closed meeting item number 2.
Be it resolved that the confidential reports from the Director of Human Resources be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Sloan and Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Closed meeting item number 3.
Be it resolved that the confidential report from the Director of Legal Services be received for information and that the Director of Legal Services will be as directed.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Hens and Deputy Warden Jones. All in favor? That is carried. Motion to adopt recommendations from the committee of the whole.
Be it resolved that we do now adopt recommendations of the committee of the whole.
Councillor Sloan. Councillor Noble, the second. All in favor? Carried. Section 12, consideration of bylaws, 12.1, bylaw number 2337, appointment of community emergency management coordinator.
Be it a first, second, and third read for bylaw number 23-37, being a bylaw to appoint a community emergency management coordinator, CEMC, for the county of Elgin, and to repeal bylaw numbers 22-44 and 21-08.
Councillor Sloan, the second. All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw, the information bylaw.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw number 23-38, being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the municipal council of the corporation of the county of Elgin at the September 26th, 2023 meeting.
Second. Deputy Warden Jones and Councillor Sloan, all in favor? That's carried. And finally, the adjournment.
Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 10:58 a.m. to meet again on October 10th, 2023 at 9 o'clock a.m.
Councillor Whitner will move, Councillor Crooked will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you for joining us this morning.